Lesson 3.1, Intro to Ethics. So, you may be wondering, what are ethics exactly? Well, let's look at the definition. Ethics are rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and morally bad. It's the particular part of philosophy dealing with what's right and what's wrong. So, if we're trying to think about what is ethical in a given situation, we're trying to decide what's right and what is wrong, which seems simple enough. For instance, let's say you find a wallet, and this wallet has $20 cash and a bus pass in it, and you found it on the ground at school. And let's say that there was no ID in it, so you have no idea who it belongs to. So, what do you do with this wallet? Should you turn the wallet and the money into the school's office, hoping that whoever it belonged to would come along looking for it? Would you take the $20 for yourself and leave the wallet? Or would you turn in the wallet and the bus pass without mentioning the $20 and keep the money as your finder's fee? This is a question of ethics. How you answer that hypothetical question tells us a lot about what you believe is right and wrong in a given situation. Now, the tricky part is the right or ethical thing to do is not always as cut and dry as finding a wallet. One of my favorite authors and journalists is a guy named Chuck Klosterman. In one of his books titled Chuck Klosterman 4, A Decade of Curious People and Dangerous Ideas, he offers us a series of hypothetical questions, which are kind of like pretend or made up questions just to make people think about their answers. One of my favorite questions he asks is a perfect example of an ethically complicated question. Think about how you might answer this question. It is 1933. You are in Berlin, Germany. Somehow, you find yourself in a position where you can effortlessly steal Adolf Hitler's wallet. Now, this theft will not affect Hitler's rise to power, the nature of World War II, or the Holocaust. There is no important identification in the wallet, but the act will cost Hitler 40 Reichsmarks and completely ruin his evening. You do not need the money. The odds that you will be caught committing this crime are less than 2%. Are you ethically obligated to steal Hitler's wallet? Should you steal his wallet or not? Now, how you answer that question is much more complicated. What's the right thing to do? Is it ethical to steal? Sometimes? Never? What about for a really good cause? As a journalist, you have a lot of power and you have the ability to persuade people because of your publication or broadcast. It's important that you think a lot about ethics and the right and wrong things to do when reporting on a story. In the next few lessons, we're going to examine some of the ethics you should have as a journalist. And we'll talk about some of the ethical complications that might come up as you work on stories and report the news. One example of this kind of ethical challenge that's going on in the field of journalism right now and is important for you to know is this. There are many people who believe it is unethical for such a small number of corporations to own and control so much of the news and entertainment that we consume. Right now, as we speak, these six companies Comcast, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, CBS own almost all of the mass media that you see every day. Is this ethical? Does this create a conflict of interest? Would they give us fair information about themselves? Is it right or wrong for just a few organizations to own almost every newspaper, TV network, radio station, movie studio, and record label that there is? This chart shows how just in the year since 1983, it went from 50 companies that own 90% of all media, who were able to compete with one another and keep one another honest, to in 2012, only six corporations owning 90% of all media. These six corporations have almost all the control over what you watch, listen to, and learn from the news. And if they don't think a news story is important, or if they don't like what a particular journalist, artist, or entertainer has to say, they simply don't cover it or publish it to the rest of us. And we more than likely never hear about it. Is that ethical in a democracy? Think back to what our founding fathers had to say about freedom of speech and freedom of the press, and how important it was for the news to inform people of all the important facts going on if we're going to operate a democracy. Does this prevent the necessary competition between news agencies that is absolutely needed for a free press that uncovers truth and facts so we can make informed choices and votes? It's an ethical question that we have to ask ourselves as journalists. And if you continue in the field of journalism or entertainment, you'll no doubt have to face it firsthand. At the end of the day, being a journalist is about telling the truth of things and providing honest, fair facts to help people stay informed. You can't do this without knowing journalism ethics well and committing yourself to following the ethical and right path.